Let me tell you a story that still bothers me. It is not about investing genius. It is about using money the wrong way. I remember a man who died at 73 with $2.4 million still left in the bank. He lived in the same small house for 40 years, drove an old car, and cut coupons until his last day. He saved with real discipline, but he never bought the time and comfort that money is supposed to buy. When he died, his children split the money and spent in 5 years what took him 50 years to build. A good plan respects math and human nature at the same time. The rules change. The very discipline that can make you wealthy earlier in life can become the habit that wastes your life later. Saving is not suddenly bad. It is that the game is different now, and most people are still playing by the old rules. Let me show you what I mean with simple arithmetic. If you save $10,000 at age 25 and it compounds at 10% a year, by 65 you end up with $452,000. Save that same $10,000 at age 55 and by 65 you have about $26,000. The time is everything in the accumulation phase. So we tell young people to save early, save aggressively, and that advice is correct. Then something happens. People internalize the message so deeply that they never stop, even after they have already won. They hit 60, 65, 70, and they are still clipping coupons, still avoiding spending, still growing the pile, as if more compounding time is the goal. But after 60, the compounding window is closing. You are not building the same way anymore. Whether you admit it or not, you are moving into the distribution phase. The question is no longer how much bigger can I make this number? The question becomes, what is this money for? And if the honest answer is just to have more, then something fundamental has been missed. Here is a picture I see all the time. People in their 60s and 70s, sitting on substantial wealth, living like they are broke. They will debate for 20 minutes about whether to order the $18 entree or the $14 entree with $800,000 in their brokerage account. They will drive 40 minutes out of their way to save $5 on groceries. They will keep a broken appliance running for years because it still works, even when it makes daily life harder, all while their net worth keeps growing and their time left keeps shrinking. I want to ask them what the money is for, because it is clearly not being used to live better, to create experiences, or to help the people they claim to care about. It is just sitting there growing unused. That is not wealth. That is hoarding with nicer paperwork. When I say the rules change after 60, I mean that time becomes the scarce resource, not money. $1 you save at 65 does not buy you the same future it would have bought you at 25, because there is less runway left for compounding and less runway left for living. That is why I think the right question becomes brutally practical. What will make the next decade meaningfully better while you still have the health to enjoy it? One of the simplest examples is travel. The 70-year, old version of you cannot do what the 65-year, old version can do, and the 75-year, old version is even more limited. People spend their whole lives collecting brochures and saying, "We will travel when we retire." Then retirement arrives and suddenly their knees hurt, or their heart is not what it was, or they are simply too tired to do what they imagined. All those plans become a box in the closet. That is the point. The window is smaller than you think. So if you are going to do it while the window is open. Another example is comfort. Comfort is not frivolous when it buys you better days. If you upgrade the things you use every day, you are not buying status, you are buying a better daily experience. A $3,000 mattress that helps you sleep well for the next 10 years is $300 a year, which is less than $1 a day. That is the point. That is not extravagance. That is one of the best bargains you will ever buy, because sleep is the foundation of everything else. And yet I have watched people sleep poorly for years rather than spend the money, even though the cost of bad sleep shows up in their mood, their energy, and their relationships. The same logic applies to fixing the small things that keep irritating you. If a repair, a replacement, or a simple upgrade removes daily friction, it can pay you back every morning you wake up. Then there is the category people hesitate to touch the most, helping the people you care about. If you intend to leave money to your kids, giving them some of that help while you are alive can be worth far more than leaving it all at the end. It is simple, not easy. Paying for your grandkids' college can matter more than leaving them money when you are gone. Helping your daughter start a business at 35 can matter more than handing her an inheritance at 70. You get to see the impact when it matters. They benefit at the moment their lives can actually change, and everyone wins, including you, because you are part of the story instead of just a line item in a will. I am not saying you should blow through your savings. I am not advocating recklessness. You still need a cushion, you still need security, and you still need a plan for the unexpected. That is the point. But there is a difference between prudent caution and pathological hoarding. Many people who believe they are being prudent are actually being driven by fear. Fear of running out, fear of needing something, fear of the unknown. Saving feels safe, so they keep saving. But safety at the cost of never actually living is not safety. It is a kind of prison with very nice walls. Now, let me describe the most common mistake I see after 60 people keep optimizing for a goal they never stated out loud. They optimize for being the richest person in the cemetery. If you are 62 with $1.5 million saved, Social Security coming, maybe a pension, a paid-off house, and you are still saving $30,000 a year, simply because that is what you have always done. The decision process has to change. In that situation, you skip the trip to Italy because it feels too expensive. You refuse to help your daughter with her startup because it feels too risky. You keep sleeping on an uncomfortable bed because a better one feels unnecessary. That is the trade. You save the $30,000 a year. And with decent market returns, you might end up with $2.2 million instead of $1.8 million. That extra $400,000 feels responsible on paper. It feels like being smart, but look at what you traded to buy it. You traded 13 years of potential experiences and comfort for money you probably will not spend anyway. The cost of choices is invisible, so people pretend it does not exist. You cannot calculate the value of the Italy trip you did not take at 63 when you were still healthy enough to enjoy it. You cannot measure what your daughter's business might have become with your backing when timing mattered most. You cannot put a clean dollar figure on the cumulative cost of 13 years of mediocre sleep. Those are not numbers on a spreadsheet, so they get ignored. But they can be the real cost, and sometimes the most real cost of all. I understand why this happens. Saving becomes identity, especially for people who remember being broke, who lived through stretches of uncertainty, or who spent decades clawing their way to security. The discipline that protected you becomes part of who you are. And it is hard to tell a part of your identity that it is time to retire. But wisdom is knowing when the rules change and having the courage to change with them. After 60, if you have been successful, the rules have changed. You are not trying to prove you can survive anymore. It is simple, not easy. You are trying to make sure you actually live. So here is a framework I like because it is simple. Think of your wealth as having a job. That is the trade. When you are young, its job is growth because compounding needs time. When you are middle-aged, its job is security and optionality, so you do not have to make desperate decisions, and you can take strategic risks. Later in life, its job changes again. Now its job is to improve your daily experience, protect your health, and let you help the people and causes that matter to you. If the money is just sitting there growing while your life is shrinking, then it is not doing its job anymore. It is like hiring someone to paint your house and then never letting them touch a brush. At 70, making money work means something very different than it did at 30. Most people never update their strategy, and they keep playing the accumulation game long after they have already won it. I have also seen the other side. People who spent everything, retired with nothing, struggled, ran out of money, and had to rely on. That fear is real, and I will not dismiss it. But here is what most people miss. Those people did not usually fail because they spent too much in their 60s. They failed because they did not save enough in their 30s, 40s, and 50s. By the time you are 60 with a reasonable amount saved, you are not them. You are not on the edge of the cliff anymore. The bigger risk becomes the opposite. The risk is never spending at all. The scarcity mindset can stay long after scarcity has ended. It does not kill your body. It kills your life. Here is a calculation people avoid because it makes the trade-off painfully clear. Imagine you are 65 with $1.2 million. You spend $60,000 a year and you keep saving $20,000. You die at 82 with $1.8 million. Your kids inherit it, they pay the taxes, and they each end up with maybe $550,000. Now run the exact same starting point differently. You spend $80,000 a year instead. You take 3 big trips. You help your kids with their lives while you are alive to see the impact. You buy the things that make you comfortable every single day. You die at 82 with $800,000. Your kids inherit it, they pay the taxes, and they each end up with maybe $250,000. So your continued saving gave them an extra $300,000 each. But you gave up 17 years of better living to do it. Was that trade worth it? Maybe for your values it is, and that is fine. But make it consciously. Do not default into it because saving is what you have always done. In my experience, your kids would usually rather have better memories of you enjoying your life than an extra $300,000 they receive decades later. That is the trade. Nobody talks about this because it sounds selfish or irresponsible. It is not, it is just math with a different objective. There is another piece most people ignore, and it is timing. If you plan to leave money to your kids or to causes you care about, when that money arrives matters enormously. Leaving your 65-year-old children $500,000 each often does not change their lives much. They are already established and past the crucial financial squeeze. Giving your 40-year-old children $100,000 each might change everything. A down payment on a home, a business start, a career transition that would have been impossible otherwise. The same dollars given earlier can have multiplicative impact. So, if you care about helping your kids, help them when it matters, when they are struggling to get established, not after they are already established. If you care about a cause, donate while you can see the impact, while you can be involved, while you can adjust and learn. The idea that virtue lies in deprivation until death does not make sense to me. It is not noble. It is often just a failure to think clearly about what you are actually trying to accomplish. I have seen another pattern that shows up late. Wealthy people in their 70s who suddenly try to give everything away in their last few years. They realize they are not going to spend it, so they start frantically distributing it to kids, charities, and causes. It is better than nothing, but it is chaotic. It is unplanned, and it often creates problems. The kids are not prepared for sudden wealth. The charities do not have time to use it strategically. Estate taxes eat a chunk because nothing was structured properly, all because someone spent 40 years accumulating and then suddenly realized they were going to die with it. If you started the distribution process at 65 instead of 85, you could do it thoughtfully and strategically. You would have time to see results, to adjust, and to give in a way that actually matches your values. Planning distribution can be as important as planning accumulation, and in many cases it is more important because that is where the money actually does something. Financial advisors do not always talk about this. Many of them are incentivized to keep assets under management, and people do not want to think about mortality, so they avoid the conversation. Now let me address the obvious objection. What if you live to 95? It is a valid question. Living a long time is a real risk. If you start spending aggressively without thinking, my answer is to plan for 90, not 70, but also not to plan as if you will live to 110. Run conservative estimates. Keep a meaningful cushion for health care, long-term care, and problems you cannot predict. Do not cut it close. But also recognize there is a rational middle ground between never spending anything and spending everything immediately. That is the trade. Many people are nowhere near that middle. They are far on the conservative side, dying with massive unspent wealth. The math is clear that many retirees can increase spending significantly and still be very safe. The 4% withdrawal rule was designed for 30-year retirements. Many people do not make it that long. If you retire at 65 with $1 million and withdraw $40,000 a year. Historical data suggests there is about a 95% chance you do not run out. A 95% chance is incredibly safe. Yet many people act as if there is a 50% chance they will run out, so they live like paupers. The fear is disconnected from reality. This is what it really comes down to. You spent decades accumulating wealth because you wanted security and freedom. Then you achieved it, and you did not act free. You did not feel secure. You just kept doing what you had always done. That is not a failure of discipline. It is often a failure of imagination. People cannot imagine living differently. They cannot imagine spending. They cannot imagine that they have already won, so they keep playing the game until the day they die. And that is the real tragedy, not that they did not have enough. They had plenty. The tragedy is that they never let themselves enjoy having enough. They were rich and lived poor, and the only reason was fear and habit. I am not romanticizing spending. I am not saying money does not matter. I am saying time matters more, health matters more, relationships matter more, and past a certain point, more money does not buy more of those things. That is the point. It just sits there growing unused. I have met people who regretted spending too much, made bad investments, lived beyond their means, and struggled. But I have met more people who regretted the opposite. They saved everything, did nothing, died with millions they never used. Their deathbed thoughts were not, "Thank goodness I kept that extra $400,000. They were, "I should have taken that trip. I should have helped my son. I should have lived better." Money is a tool. Tools are meant to be used. If you are not using it, you are just hoarding tools in a shed. That is the point. That is not real wealth. That is accumulation for its own sake. So what do I recommend after 60? In plain language, start by calculating your realistic needs. Be honest, not pessimistic, and do not build the plan around fantasy disasters that never happen. Look at what you have, what your basic expenses are, what Social Security is likely to cover, and whether you have any pension income. Be realistic about the timeline. For many people at 65, that means 15 to 25 more years, maybe 30 if you are lucky and healthy. Do the math on what you can spend per year without running out, and start with a simple rule of thumb if you need one. The 4% rule is a starting point, not a commandment, but it is a useful anchor. With $1 million, a $40,000 annual withdrawal has a long history of working. And once you add Social Security and other income, many households are more than fine. It is simple, not easy. Then build in a meaningful cushion for uncertainty. health care, long-term care, unexpected problems. If you are not sure, be conservative and set aside more than you think you need. Once you have done that math, stop optimizing for maximum wealth at death. Create a spending plan that includes experiences, comfort, and strategic gifts while you are alive. Review it annually and adjust as needed. Default toward living, not hoarding. You can be prudent and generous at the same time. You can be careful and comfortable at the same time. The choice is not between reckless spending and total deprivation. Many people act like it is because fear is loud. I try to be deliberate. Not reckless, not impulsive, just honest about what money is supposed to do. I run the numbers, I build a margin of safety, and then I give myself permission to use the money for its intended job, peace of mind. Freedom from financial anxiety, the ability to be generous, room to breathe. If you are 65 with substantial savings and you are still anxious about spending $100, you have missed the point entirely. You won the game and refuse to leave the field. Most people will not listen to this. They will keep saving, keep hoarding, keep living like they are poor, because changing is hard and habits are stubborn. They read words like these and think, that sounds nice, but I need to be more careful. More careful than what? You have a solid portfolio and you will not buy a comfortable chair. How much more careful can you possibly be? I know how it often ends. People die with their money unspent and their lives unlived, and their kids spend it in 5 years on things far less meaningful than what the parents could have done with it. That is the pattern. But you do not have to follow it. That is the point. If you actually run the numbers and tell yourself the truth, you will usually find you have more room to spend than you think. You are safer than you feel, and the life you could be living is waiting for you right now, not later. Later might not come, or it might come diminished. Now is what you have. Now is when you are healthy enough, mobile enough, and sharp enough. That is the trade. 5 years from now, you will wish you had done more today. 10 years from now, you will regret the things you did not do, not the money you did not save. You will regret the experiences you postponed, the comfort you denied yourself, the help you did not give when it would have mattered most. That is what people regret at the end. Not financial mistakes. It is simple, not easy. Life mistakes. So that is the actual wisdom about money after 60. Stop playing the accumulation game when you have already won it. Start playing the life game while you still can. That is the point. Money is a tool in your hands. Use it. You built wealth for freedom. Be free. You saved for security. Be secure. Most people do not fail from lack of intelligence. They fail from bad incentives and bad habits. You work for options, exercise them. In my experience, simple principles beat complicated rules. You do not need to spend like a fool. You need to stop living like you are one bad week away from ruin when you are not.